Konnichiwa. Welcome to the Martial Maze. I'm without my partner in crime, Barack Chidoshi, so you have Israel Lopez Sensei. Yeah, it seems to me that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is finally dealing with what we've dealt with in the martial arts industry for quite some time since the commercialization. And the question the issue is, can you buy a black belt? And the short answer, yes. Yes, you can. For 19.95 plus shipping and handling, folks. Yes, yes. I'm laughing, but it's crazy, but it's true. Yes, you can. In the commercialization of martial arts, you can definitely buy yourself a black belt. Now, we're going to dive into what makes a black belt, and because there's a lot of controversy around that too. But in reference to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so its latest issue is with a individual by the name of Derek Moneyberg. In case you've been sleeping under a rock in the martial arts community, or you do other martial arts and not BJJ, here's a couple of quick clips of what folk is saying about Mr. Moneyberg. So we'll start off with this one from Jiu-Jitsu. So check it out.
What up, guys? So earlier this week, the BJJ community was abuzz with this story about this internet guru fella getting his black belt in 3.5 years, joining the likes of people like BJ Penn, actually beating Gordon Ryan by a bit, who took 5 years to get his black belt. The guy's name is Derek Moneyberg. I looked him up a little bit before I did this video. Apparently his real name's Dale, but who am I to talk about that? Because, my real name's Nick, but go by the name Chewy.
And another one from our buddies at Mac Dojo Life. Well, Mac Dojo Life, not just more than one person. It's just one person. So you can make the correction there and stuff like that. So yeah, because I'm a little bad at that. Okay.
Hey guys, Rob here with Mac Dojo Life, and this is Dale Buskowski, aka Derek Moneyberg. Recently, he made this post about earning his black belt in 3.5 years. Now, if you go to that post and you look at the comment sections, you'll notice that the martial arts community is fairly split about this issue. On one side, you have a lot of very famous martial artists vouching for him. You can see clearly that he was training with high-level people because he had the money to do so. And on the other hand, you have a lot of very famous martial artists who were calling him basically a fraud, that he didn't truly earn it, that he just bought it. Now, him getting his black belt in 3.5 years is one of those things of legend, right? Most people can never achieve that unless you've done something great in the industry or the sport.
And one more here. And this is a bulletproof for BJJ. And I'll take it.
Can black belts be bought? Yes, they can, apparently, because your boy Derek Moneyberg has bought his. There's a lot of controversy about this, Joe. We need to unpack it.
Brother, I went away for a week last week.
Totally missed it.
Totally missed it.
Right.
Saw the fuck on WhatsApp.
So yeah, apparently this individual is the latest of folk who have allegedly trained for 3-point-something years. In this particular individual's case, 3.5 years, and received his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, we have been told in the past, and we've done episodes about it, that the average time it takes to earn a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is roughly about 10 years for the average student. Now, I personally don't agree with this, but I can kind of see where that works. And the reason why I say I don't agree with it is if you come from a martial art like judo or wrestling or sambo, clearly those three main arts have a lot of grappling in it. So to start off as a white belt in an art that does a lot of grappling, if you've been a high-end grappler from day one, when you walk in the door, it just doesn't make any sense to me to start somebody off as a white belt. I feel like if you're a black belt in judo, you should be starting off closer to blue belt. Especially if and I've heard folks say, well, yeah, but if you're not a competitor, if you're a competitor, I would say the newaza is newaza, and if you know the ins and outs of framing and stuff like that, why start somebody off at the beginning? I always thought that was crazy in martial systems, where especially ones that were very similar. when you walk in, if you were a black belt in Shorin-ryu and you went to Goju-ryu, which are still similar in a lot of ways, why would somebody start you off as a white belt in that? That's kind of doesn't make any sense. The same thing with wrestling. I mean, wrestling in other systems like Sambo, which really don't have air quotations rank. But if you were a high level college athlete in wrestling, you're going to walk into a BJJ school and you're going to be formidable on day one. And it's really just learning how to fight for your back, because obviously in wrestling you're not on your back, right? But when a lot of arts that have that even in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's now that when you compete you have to start from standing, and Greco really fits. If you've gone, anybody's ever done Greco-Roman wrestling, really fits into that mold, right? And wrestlers typically do very well in that because they're used to it and they're used to that quick scramble, that being fast, that fast pace working. And it's kind of the same with judo. Most judoka move a lot faster when they get on the mat and stuff like that for a lot of reasons, mostly because in contests we don't have a lot of time. We've got to be able to do a thing. So there have been other martial artists, like, to name a few, BJ Penn, Travis Stevens, who've earned black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in, well, under that 10 years. So I think I want to say Travis was 3.5. But he was a high-end judoka, an Olympic. He went to the Olympics, he medaled at the Olympics and stuff. So you're dealing with that level, right? That's like the NFL, right? It's going from collegiate to NFL, right? And and that makes sense. Why would you start that person off in the beginning? But the big buzz right now is that this particular person, he they're like in his business dealings, and you can go Google the man, go into a deep dive. Seems to me his business dealings have been a little shaky. So there's folks calling him fraudulent. Now I have no way to corroborate this. So the Marshall Mason does not 100% know this individual's background, so I can't really do a deep dive. But I want to tell you, as somebody who's listening and watching the show, by all means, do a deep dive, check into this individual, if you want to get a little more into that, because the charlatans are out there, man. The scammers are out there. But it's one of those things when we hear it in the BJJ community, that if it's under this amount of time, then well, they're fake, they're fraudulent, there's no way they got their black belt in under this amount of time. And I don't know. How long does it take to master something? I mean, and then more importantly, and I've tried looking at this and trying to research it a little bit, and I never realized this before, but it doesn't seem that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has an actual syllabus per se. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that you're supposed to know by the time you make black belt, but it's not like case in point, if circling to something like judo or even regular Okinawan karate, normally you have your Fugyu kata, and then you have your pinans or hinans 1 to 5, and that kind of, you have things that go in steps. And if you're taekwondo, you have the youngs, right? If you're I kind of want to think that if you're in judo, especially in judo, you have the different kyos, the different sets of throws, and they go by degree of difficulty, right? By Uki's ability to receive. And that's kind of a syllabus, and we can kind of gauge where you are by your knowledge, right? Your knowledge of that working syllabus and stuff like that, where it seems to me almost as if Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and again, if there's somebody out there that can plug me a little more into this, because even the classes that I've taken in the past and even now, like when you walk in on day one, like one of the other guys will come over and they'll start showing you some of the basics and the things you work on. But one of the things I do like about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is on day one, you walk in and whatever they're working on that day is kind of what you're working on, right? And then, of course, you have somebody kind of pulls you aside and says, hey, yeah, we're working on this, but this is the stuff that you're supposed to know. These are the things that you need to work on right away. A lot of professors will kind of, hey, well, okay, you don't know how to do that Granby roll. Okay, so we're going to work that out, because there's no way you're going to get this particular escape or catch this position if you can't do that Granby roll. So maybe we'll work on you with that Granby roll or something like that to that effect. So this is, fairly interesting that during this research that I've been doing, I can't find an actual set syllabus. And again, this goes back to when there's less regulation on something. And again, not a huge fan of regulation, but even in this particular case, you're gonna end up with this. You're gonna end up with the charlatans coming out of the woodwork. Now, my question for folk is has anybody fought Derek Moneyberg? That's my question. Because, well, okay, he can have the knowledge. Can he use it? Okay, but my understanding is in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's not just whether or not you have the knowledge, it's whether or not you have working knowledge where you can actually use the knowledge in real time. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be an elite competitor, because my understanding is there's two different kinds of black belts. There's one that has a white line at the end of the belt. One has a red one. One symbolizes teacher, the other one symbolizes competitor. But every professor that I've talked to and that I've worked with or actually worked under to date has clearly stated that it doesn't matter what stripe that's there, whether it's white or red. You're supposed to, at Shodan, at Black Belt, have working knowledge of that information and be able to do it in real time. Now, can you do it like an elite competitor? Well, maybe, maybe not. Who knows? That's depending on if that's what you were training for. Because if that was the case, there'd be a lot of old folks that do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that earn their black belts. Can that old dude beat a 20-year-old guy? I mean, that's a working athlete full time. I doubt that highly. I mean, you can probably give him a good run for his money. And I guess that's the point. Can you work that information, right? Can you make it fit you? And it's supposed to be a combination of both. So I really do want to know what other people think about this, because it has sparked a lot of controversy. But the rest of us in the martial arts community and us at the Martial Maze are kind of going, well, what'd you think was going to happen over time? I mean, that's anytime you put money and tie money into anything and make something into an industry where, it's governed by the God Almighty dollar, you're going to run into this, right? You're going to run into the pay for play, right? Kind of martial arts out there in the martial arts schools, and people can get in their feelings about it all the live long day. But that's again one of the issues in our industry. Can one buy a black belt? And circling back to what I said at the beginning, yes, absolutely. You can buy a black belt. Now, whether or not you can fight your way out of paper bag, well, that's a whole different story, right? And there's that. Before I go, though, I'm just letting folks know the Martial Maze, we're still doing our thing. We're still finishing up season 4 of Modern Combatives. We're very excited about that. Episodes will drop. We're kind of behind schedule on that one, which is kind of crazy. But some of this has to do with the fact that the Martial Maze is growing. For those that don't know, we have a thing that we do in the background. We do production and we produce a couple of other shows we're spreading our portfolio out, if you will. I mean, we're still covering everything in the martial arts spectrum and things like that, but we do produce the Shrinking Ed's podcast that's done by 2 licensed clinical therapists. We're in talks to start to produce another series for someone else, and so we're doing a lot in that part in the back of the scenes, which is pretty awesome. It's good to grow and good to be diverse. We expect some crossover episodes that are kind of get us. Again, we're still talking about martial arts, we're still talking combatives, but we're also talking mental health, we're also talking about social issues that are impacting us, and so we're growing, right? We're not going to just be one-dimensional. Now, for our fans, like our loyal fan base, man, we appreciate you. We're glad you're still with us. We're glad you still watch what we do and follow us. We enjoy that, and we really do. We really appreciate that. And a lot of what we're doing now as we move forward is geared around us listening to our base. And a lot of folks, like, okay, all right, so y'all dealing with domestic violence in martial arts? Are y'all dealing with, mental health in martial arts? And those are topics. Those are, sometimes taboo. You know what I'm saying? How do we, deal with being diverse? And, well, we don't want to talk about diversity in martial arts. Well, why not? It's not just the physical part, you know what I'm saying? It's the mental part, and for some, remember, martial arts now is a bigger tent. It's not just about fighting, and stuff. I mean, well, in the end, it circles back to fighting, but, there are levels to this, as one of my martial peers likes to say a lot. And last, I'm going to leave a little bit of advice. It's something that I a hard truth that I had to take in. And it's something I strive to work on. You know, I'm not perfect. I don't think anybody is, but we want to strive to be perfect at what we do. And it circles itself to uh, why I chose judo to teach out of all the other martial systems that I do know. And one of the things is that maxim jiu-jitsu, mutual benefit, well-being, or you and I shining together. And it's not just something that's happened to me personally as a coach and as a sensei, but it's happened to other martial artists that I deal with, that we talk to, and sometimes some of our martial peers and brothers, and they've had this kind of issue too. So there's two important things. If you're tired, stay home. Don't come to the dojo. Stay home. You know, we recognize that you had a hard day. We recognize that, you know, that you might have worked a 60-hour work week or whatever. But when you walk into the dojo, we're going to meet you where you are, you know, especially as coaches, especially as teachers, right? We're going to meet you as you where you are. So if you want to come in and you want to have a conversation about martial arts as we're working, and you're not going to work as hard, understand we're going to meet you there. But don't get it twisted. You didn't come in to train. You came in to kind of do a thing. You know, you wanted to get a lesson in, and it just was there. Now, if you want to talk about training and putting in work, well, a lesson that I had to learn fairly recently is, shut up, come to class, bow in, and begin to put your work in. You know, if you're tired, again, stay home. Stay home. We don't want that energy. You don't want to bring that energy, right? You fight the way you train. If you come in and you're lazy about it, and again, let me walk that one back about calling someone lazy. I feel like that's not the right term to use. You're not there. You don't have enough spoons, right? You didn't have enough, you know, and you figured maybe, hey, when I got to the dojo, maybe I get that energy. But a lot of times when you're tired, you know, that could lead to injury, not just to yourself, but to somebody you're training with, you know, and that's never a good look, right? And a note to instructors, and a lesson, like I said, that I had to learn is you have to know the difference between when you're teaching and when you're training. And they're not the same. They're not. When I'm teaching, I really want to make sure that you get that information so that when you're doing your homework or when I see it again, that I can see you using that principle right? So I'm teaching you how to use a tool, right? Or I give you the example of that tool, give you an example of it, and then eventually want you to see how well you're going to put that to work. And that's awesome, great. Um, and that's a teaching session. A training session is based off information you already have. You already have all those tools. So a training session is we're going to come in, we're going to do 100 to 200 uchikomi. In a training session, we're going to work just drills that are geared around principles and things that you already should know. So, you know, so you're just really connecting the dots. And now we're working on, you already know how to punch and kick, but now when do you punch and kick? You understand what I'm saying? Or when now I'm going to grip fight, and why am I going to get this particular grip? And that's what's going to be the meat and potatoes. And that's a training session. We ain't doing a whole lot of talking. We're doing a whole lot of sweating and heavy breathing. You know? And if that isn't happening, then we're really not training. And with that, I want to thank you for tuning in to Marshall Mays. Stay tuned. We got a lot of things coming up. Oh, man, listen, you're going to be happy. You're going to be happy. All right. And again, this is Israel Lopez Sensei without my partner in crime, Barack Shidoshi, and you've been listening to The Marshall Mays.